They're being hunted to the brink of extinction. For their meat.
Toro, can you see this?
For their skin. For their medicinal value.
Oh my God. It's like battery.
It's a multi-billion-dollar industry and an illegal one.
What is that? Yeah, chill out.
Nowhere is the demand for tiger parts greater than in China.
The rule here seems to be if it breathes, if it's got a heartbeat, they can be dinner.
And despite their dwindling numbers in the wild, there seems to be no shortage of parts to meet that demand. Where are they coming from?
All right, here we go.
We go undercover to find out.
This thing is fucking massive. Look at this.
The results of our investigation are disturbing.
What happened to the skin?
Exposing how some of China's supposed conservation efforts have in fact been perverted and now appear to be anything but. At stake is the very survival of one of the world's most magnificent creatures.
As soon as we saw the heart started beating quickly.
As the fate of the wild tiger hangs in the balance.
There is money involved. There is profit involved. Definitely somebody is going to kill a tiger in the wild. I don't want to tell my children that there were tigers in our forests.
My first pet was a little cat with stripes. His name was Tiger. Ever since then, I've been obsessed with tigers.
This is like the coolest thing ever.
I'd waited my entire life for an opportunity like this. And judging by the number of tourists,
The tummy room?
I wasn't the only one. Today, more tigers live in captivity in places like this than do in the wild. At the turn of the 20th century, there were more than 100,000 tigers living in the wild. Then, human populations began to spread, and they began to hunt. The tiger's natural habitat shrank rapidly. Current estimates now put the number of tigers remaining in the wild at fewer than 3,200. I've traveled to India, home to about half of the world's remaining wild tigers, to see for myself if this charismatic creature will make it to the turn of the next century.
I'm seeing some tiger tracks along this dirt road here. Hopefully it'll lead us to the mouth of a tiger.
Ranthambore National Park is one of 39 preserves set up in India to protect the wild tiger and its habitat. Spotting a tiger in the wild, even here, takes patience and perseverance. We've spent several hours tracking a pair to this lake.
As she sit down, they are going to mating, they are going to mate. Come on.
There's a little tiger porn here. Considering the population of tigers around the world has dipped to such a low figure, watching mating, whether it's actually successful or not, is kind of exciting.
It is, definitely. You never know.
Ranthambore is one of the few places in the world where the wild tiger population is poised to rebound. But even these animals aren't completely safe from the single greatest risk facing them today: the illegal hunting of wildlife. Poaching fuels a trade in animal parts, estimated to be worth as much as $20 billion, ranking just behind drugs as the most lucrative black market trade in the world.
The plan is very simple. The moment we have the material in, a number of cops will come in and they will overpower them, then we don't know what will happen.
This is Josie Louis. His organization, Care for the Wild International, conducts undercover operations to bring wildlife criminals to justice.
I'll set up the computer, we will be on a Skype chat.
When we met Josie, he was trying to take down a wildlife trafficker whom his team had found selling a tiger skin online.
I'll tell him that my boss, the man who's actually spending the money, is here on your screen.
Josie asked me to participate in this sting operation by posing via webcam as his boss, an overseas businessman interested in buying the illegal product for sale.
Yes, hi. Good afternoon. Oh, did you just bring it in? I want to see the material.
My job was to coax these criminals into actually showing me the skin.
Toro, can you see this? Can you see it?
Just the sight of the goods was enough evidence for the police to rush in.
What is that? Yeah, chill out.
They seize an illegal tiger skin worth upwards of $10,000.
That skin from India, when it reaches the international market, you know how the price increases. Yeah. There is no domestic demand. We don't consume tiger skins or tiger body.
Open-air markets like this one can be found all over China. Food vendors gather to peddle culinary delicacies. You'll find chickens and rabbits. But you'll also find rats and turtles, cats, and dogs.
This is really hard to watch.
At markets like these, the kills are fresh.
The rule here seems to be that if it breathes, if it's got a heartbeat, it's fair game. It can be dinner.
There's an old saying that the Chinese will eat anything with 4 legs, except a table. That isn't far from the truth. Conservationists believe that with more than 1 billion citizens, China's outsized appetite for wildlife is pushing some species to the brink of extinction. China is the world's largest consumer of illegal wildlife, with a black market trade in both food and, as it turns out, medicine.
This liquor store here has quite a wide selection of French wines. You've got some great Merlots and Bordeauxs, but the more interesting stuff is on this side. This is where the Chinese traditional medicine wines are stocked. This one right here has 3 penises, ox, seal, and deer penises. Good for virility. But up here are 2 of my favorites. This one is snake wine. They say this is good for improving your circulation. And I think this one is probably the gnarliest one. Field mice.
Traditional Chinese medicine dates back over 2,000 years, and according to Dr. Zhang Xiping, is still widely practiced today. Subscribers have long believed that dried herbs and animal parts are effective in remedying imbalances in the body, which are thought to cause disease. One of the most sought-after animals for its purported healing properties is the tiger.
In the past, the bone of the tiger, the tendon of the tiger, the fat of the tiger, the kidney of the tiger, and the eye of the tiger has been used.
Tiger bone wine is a very very old traditional Chinese wine. It's very good for your body and for your bone pain, kill your bone pain.
Despite his reverence for the tiger's medicinal value, this shopkeeper, who abides by the law, did not stock any tiger bone wine on his shelves.
Now it's forbidden, so it's very rare, very difficult to find.
In 1993, under pressure from the international community, China, the world's leading consumer of endangered wildlife, passed laws banning the sale of tigers and all tiger parts. The traditional Chinese medicine community followed suit by taking tiger off its list of approved ingredients. But old habits die hard. In a recent survey, 43% of those living in urban areas of China admitted to using products alleged to contain tiger parts for medicinal purposes. It's clear that despite the government's crackdown, the demand for tiger parts remains high. And so too does the supply. In one of China's wealthiest cities, we tracked down a traditional medicine doctor that was selling tiger bone wine under the table. Our translator set up an introduction, and outfitted with undercover cameras, we met him in his private office. As soon as we entered the room, we were presented with a large jug filled with wine that purportedly contained tiger parts. Believing that I was interested in buying wine for my sick parents, the doctor began pouring glasses. For fear of raising his suspicions, I had no choice but to drink it.
It's like really powerful.
Yeah. 你攞去解釋下，我哋叫咩咧？叫生命嘅氣息飛翔。
應該有骨路嘅睇過，但係佢淨係擺喺度。
Sleep better.
Satisfied that I was an interested customer, the doctor tried to sell me a jar for $10,000. I tried to press him for more details on where he sourced the tigers.
Is it difficult for him to get all the parts, like the leopard and the tiger?
佢有佢辦法啦，睇辦法。
佢做嗰行嘅肯定有辦法。
佢喺呢個有辦法。
Just 40 years ago, there were more than 4,000 tigers in China. Today, it's estimated that less than 50 remain in the wild. but more than 6,000 tigers live in captivity in parks like this one in China's northeasternmost province of Heilongjiang.
It's amazing how these animals are just like domestic cats, only like 20 times bigger. Look at that paw.
Tiger parks were first established in the early 1990s as breeding facilities, part of a conservation effort to save the animal from imminent extinction. In tiger parks all across the country, and there are now 20 of them, the stated goal is to breed the tigers at an accelerated rate and train them for eventual release back into the wild.
This woman is like the nurse of death.
Over the years, these tiger parks have emerged as tourist attractions.
See, they're following them. They know the food's coming.
Conditions here at the park appeared questionable. The grounds looked overcrowded, and the animals underfed. Natural-born hunters vying for little more than a steady stream of sacrificial chickens. It seemed improbable that these animals would be equipped to survive if they were released into the wild. Not a single tiger returned to the wild. The more time I spent here, the more I wondered about the true fate of the animals on display.
There's a big sign right out there in green that's advertising bone strengthening wine. Doesn't quite say that it's tiger bone wine, but pretty suspicious. So we're going to go inside and see if we might be able to find out.
The true nature of these parks and the Chinese government's commitment to conservation were both called into question when pictures like this were published recently in Chinese newspapers, exposing the flagrant and widespread violation of China's often unenforced tiger trade laws. Until the release of this photo just a few months before we arrived, Harbin's Tiger Park promoted its own tiger bone wine by actually brewing it in the gift shop, right out in the open. On the day we were there, the presence of tiger bone wine was less conspicuous. But we didn't have to wait very long or look very hard to find what we suspected was there.
It's not plastic, it's a real deal. 那为什么把那酒抽掉了？为什么把那酒？以前不是有一种？当时你投过。This is illegal, so you have to be very. This place has to be very careful.
It's illegal, but I could buy some wine here, right?
You can buy.
Once the employee felt assured that I was interested in making a purchase, she, like the traditional Chinese medicine doctor in Shenzhen, was ready to make a deal. I was led to a private room upstairs, where I was introduced to a special salesperson. Through my translator, I pressed him for details on what exactly was in the wine he was offering. Did it, in fact, contain the parts of tigers raised here at this park?
这是虎骨酒啊，不是壮骨酒，壮骨酒。这个多少钱一瓶啊？这是1680的。1680。对对。那如果那个就是一点中药的话，怎么价格买那么贵？那个成分我不太清楚，知道吧？卖酒不一定知道，因为他们就是我只是告诉你价格、功效。对。
The salesman seemed uncomfortable with our questions.
没有什么，我了解了，没有什么骨头啊，没有骨头，哪有骨头？
I left the sales office dissatisfied with the answers we had received. Whether or not he was telling the truth, the entire transaction seemed shrouded in secrecy. Of course, I was just one paltry customer. I began to wonder, just how large-scale is Tiger Bone wine production despite all the bans? And just how deep are the ties to tiger parks like this one? After less than a week in China, we had already found Tiger Bone wine for sale in 2 major cities. Next, we headed to the city of Guangzhou, where, despite the supposed ban on such products, we heard there was yet another distributor selling a popular brand of Tiger Bone wine out in the open.
All right, here we go.
This entire side of the wall is all exotic animals, mostly berbile and tiger bone wines.
The sales manager was eager to give us his pitch.
我们这个公司啊，这个养殖场是全世界最低的。
So this is the best of the best.
Yes. 那我们可以给你们说明书嘛？因为说明书现在是这样。
Later that night, we read the brochure we'd been given.
Each year, we can breed over 1,000 tigers.
The brochure was craftily composed. It was clear that wine was being mass-produced. And yet, the inference was that only a handful of tigers were being used in that production. Tigers that came from a park run by the company itself.
So they're claiming that they're using old tigers?
Using old tigers or naturally die.
Tigers that naturally die. Yeah. All the imagery points to the fact that these tigers are bred for the express purpose of being made into wine, but their language is very subtle, I guess.
Very subtle and very subtly audacious.
Yeah.
The brochure said that the wine was brewed in a distillery in a small city about 500 miles away.
This is the compound that houses the Tiger Bone Wine Brewery. We're just kind of driving around the perimeter to see if there might be a way in. Pretty massive compound here.
There was only one entrance, and we'd been told that visitors were not welcome. Our translator created a distraction, and we slipped in.
Straight ahead of me, this is where they're brewing. You can see these giant, like, iron vats that are probably about 8-9 feet tall. And to your right, that's the cellar where they keep and they age the wine.
This video footage that we obtained shows what's inside that cellar. Vats capable of storing up to 15,000 tons of wine.
Here in front of me is about 20 or so rusted cages. These are cages for transporting animals.
This was a large-scale operation, and one that had to require far more than just the handful of tigers the brochure attributed to the company's tiger park in Guilin, a 6-hour drive to the north. Xiongsan Tiger and Bear Village is China's most famous tiger park.
It's not clear how many tigers are here now. It's said to be around 1,500 or so. Before I came, I'd read that this place was sort of likened to the Auschwitz of tigers, and I kind of laughed. It seemed like it was totally overblown, but this definitely takes on the feel of a concentration camp where these tigers are destined to die.
When the daily parade kicked off, there were less than a dozen people there.
This is horrific. That float that just passed us was actually an advertisement for Tiger Bone wine. Using the proof the connection between this park and that wine. That was right there.
Following the parade, we inquired about the wine. As in Harbin, we were escorted to a back room. Inside, we spotted the same wine that was on sale in Guangzhou and the same earthenware jars we saw at the distillery. We overheard the saleswoman making a phone call. This customer bought so many boxes that the saleswoman used an electronic money counter to double-check the amount. The relative openness of this operation, and the others we'd seen, seemed to drive home China's lack of interest in enforcing its tiger trade restrictions. We met one man who believes that those restrictions were a terrible idea in the first place.
If there is demand, it can never be blocked by that measures. What you will do is you will put the demand underground, which will generate all the criminal activities surrounding it.
Barun Mitra is an economist and a conservationist. He believes that China should legalize the trade of captive-bred tigers, allow tiger parks to operate more like tiger farms, where the animals would be raised and then killed for their parts, just like chickens, or cows, or pigs. This, he says, would flood the market, reduce demand, and disincentivize poachers, ultimately saving the wild tiger from extinction.
No poacher can compete with a legal market. That is a huge opportunity. It could be a win-win. It could be a win-win because there is a demand, there is a supply, there is a way to meet it. Everybody in the chain would benefit, including the tiger in the wild. Including the tiger in the wild.
Just a few weeks of undercover work had revealed the unyielding demand for tiger products in China, particularly tiger bone wine. The pursuit of such products, however, forced Chinese consumers underground into clandestine meetings and backroom deals. Things were very different, we were told, in a place just beyond the country's western border. So we hopped on some bikes and rode just about 10 minutes into Burma, also known as Myanmar. Like many border towns, this place operates like a no man's land, where neither Chinese nor Burmese laws apply.
Down below is the town of Mong La, which is known as a wildlife trafficking hub. And it's only in the darkest corners of the world, far outside the reach of authorities, where the trade in tigers can take place pretty openly.
Mong La acts as a gateway for smuggling illegal wildlife from India and other Asian countries into China. Here, in the first store we entered, was tiger bone wine. Not tucked away and hidden, but right out in the open, the tiger skeleton still soaking in it. But these shops peddle much more than just wine. There were dozens of tiger skins.
Spread this thing out. This thing is fucking massive. Look at this.
For the equivalent of about $9,000, any tourist could walk away with a tiger skin. In the next shop, we found more of the same.
I want like fresh new tiger, like freshly killed.
Two days ago? The tiger skin may have already sold, but we were about to find out that not everything of the tiger was gone. Yet again, I found myself being led into a back room.
Oh my god, oh my god.
这是什么东西啊？
老虎肉嘛。
Oh, this is tiger meat. What happened to the skin? 那个皮呢？
皮没掉。
Oh, yesterday sold out.
Oh, she sold the skin yesterday?
Yeah. And now she's selling the meat to different restaurants.
The restaurants?
那怎么知道这个是野的，不是那个养的那个老虎？
这边没有养，到山上去打的嘛，老百姓打的。
They never heard about the race tiger in Burma, only in China. This is much better than the race ones.
Oh, it tastes better?
Much better and also more effective for your health.
现在我就挂这个，你们就拿去搞。
What are you going to do with the bones?
Some people have already ordered this to make a tiger bone.
Who likes to buy this stuff?
一般来说是谁喜欢这个虎骨的？
哦，中国人喜欢的也
Always Chinese. They love it.
这个肉。
It's a huge tiger skin.
Yeah. In this store alone, 5 skins. Right? She's taking us back to her kitchen.
Oh my god. It's a full tiger which is skinned and kept. That is essentially what we are fighting here. And that is what I was telling. If there is a demand, if there is a shop openly selling tiger skin and people are coming and buying it as if they are buying vegetables, we have a long way to go. This is where my problem starts. This is where my problem begins. This is a tiger from the wild. Definitely, people will pay a fortune to buy it and eat it and drink the wine. If there is a demand from any part of the world, definitely somebody is going to kill a tiger in the wild.
Tiger.
Wow. Oh my god. As soon as we saw him, the heart started beating quickly. Oh my god. This is amazing. It's unbelievable. There's nothing in the world like seeing a massive tiger in the wild.